Busy, kind of crazy day. I had teaching this morning, and then me, my mom, my sister Kristen, and niece Evelyn E. Claire. We went and visited a friend of mine, and they have a kid recently, and exchanged a computer there, hung out, talked, let the babies play together. And then we went over to the cousin, Shane and Jess, and they have a little baby, not old enough to play or anything yet, but we hung out there, and I think they exchanged some baby stuff too. And then I came back here, and because I had teaching, so I just got done with that. And in the middle of that, fairly early in the morning, I had my Toastmasters group, which was a lot of fun today. So 4 visitors, Bill and Sue Mills were there, which are former members, and they moved to Florida. It was good to see them again. And I've been thinking about a few things over the last few days as I've experienced some ups and downs with my health. This morning I was feeling pretty good. Today wore on me quite a bit of time in the car, and all those little bumps create a big difference. We know that. And now I've been thinking about a few things. So soon, coming up in October, right? September 22nd, right now. So October 4th through the 15th, I have a meditation retreat, a Vipassana meditation retreat. And so there'll be about a 2-week period where I'm not getting adjustments again, which we just tried, I don't know, I think last month. And that hurt a lot. But at that time, I spent a lot of time in the car over those 14 days and a decent amount of time walking. This meditation retreat, I won't spend very much time walking, mostly sitting, and I won't spend very much time in the car. It's in the middle of the state of Michigan, so I just have to go there once, come back once. So not too much time driving or walking, which are my big impact activities that you can't really avoid very well. It's hard to get around driving or walking. So it'll be a good test, essentially, to see how big of a difference the impact makes, which I think is going to be huge because my health and my status kind of varies anyways. And, life is crazy and biology is crazy, so it's hard to isolate variables. But because we have these tests fairly close together, of 2 weeks off, and driving to Chicago and back, and driving to Chicago and back, and driving to Grand Rapids and back, and walking around Navy Pier, and then this one where I'm not going to be doing very much walking or riding, but almost same amount of time, not very far apart. It's a perfect test, so we'll really see how much of a difference that impact makes, and I think it's might be huge, which is kind of disturbing because it's like, okay, well, you have to limit driving or riding in cars and walking, and I'm already trying to not walk very much, which I used to hike a lot. I used to hike all the time. So, and I used to drive all the time. I used to drive all over the place. So it's kind of weird. Big adjustment, but it'll be a good experiment. Not looking forward to the pain. I think there's going to be a decent amount of pain involved in not getting an adjustment for a couple of weeks. But pain. Also, I'm thinking about after that, so I'll probably have to recover after that. I might not be doing great. I might try making more cervical lordosis, which is the curve that's supposed to be in your cervical spine, where it goes in, then your back goes out, and then it's supposed to go back in. Right? So your spine's supposed to be lordosis, kyphosis, lordosis. And mine up here is straight at a weird angle. It's like jutted back and straight. But we don't have an x-ray of before I was having all my major issues. We don't have an x-ray before my car crashes, before head injury, right? We don't have an x-ray when everything was good. We don't have an x-ray for many of those, which is kind of insane. But we don't, I mean, my spine's deformed, right? It's not going to look the same as the normal model you see, and I have a lot of deformity up here. So maybe it never was curved how most people's are. Nevertheless, it's worth a shot. Lordosis is not supposed to be possible to be put back in, but like most things that are just lies, the research actually says that a decent amount of people would respond to certain types of treatment to putting lordosis back into the neck. So I've looked at cervical lordosis. I have the papers on it. I would have to study them again. on exactly how to do that, but I may try that as an experiment after this experiment with meditation retreat. Also, let's see, sticking on brain stuff. So I get kind of sedated when my brain gets bad. I got a bone, one or two, pressing in at different points on my brainstem, which messes up all sorts of stuff, right? It's hard to push something into your brainstem and not have everything get messed up. So all my hormones, my heart, my lungs get messed up, my memory gets messed up, all of that. And one of the things is I get really kind of sedated. I mean, it almost kind of like puts me down. It's just puts me out of it. And I don't know how much of that is directly due to the nervous tissue being impinged upon and how much is due to the nervous tissue being impinged upon causing an immense amount of pain, plus other stuff which releases a bunch of hormones, and that's giving me the sedated effect. I don't know exactly what the causal chain is, and probably no one in the world can figure out what the causal chain is, or at least no one I'm ever going to be able to meet. So we have almost no hope of figuring out what that is. But just by the very fact that I'm kind of sedated like that, it means I'm not thinking clearly, I'm not thinking very fast. And in that case, it means all those neurons in your brain are not firing, right? They're not flashing off in your brain. Well, that means that those connections are weakening, essentially, right? Because I'm coming up on 2 years of this, and I've had extended periods of time where I was not thinking clearly, I was not thinking fast, my memory was not working well, and I was not able to take in new information, which was kind of insane. I wasn't able to comprehend things I was reading, which is really weird, because I'm used to having a very high level of reading comprehension. And that means my skill learning ability was very low. Now you see something similar in MS, multiple sclerosis, which is an autoimmune disease which attacks the myelin, which is a phospholipid in your brain, which wraps around your neurons. And this is basically what allows you to learn things, because the neurons fire, and then there's these other little things, I can't remember what they're called. They sense that the neuron fired, and so they wrap it with cytoplasm, and it makes it more efficient. And it can make these things a lot more efficient. It changes the timing, so the timing becomes more optimal. It makes it so essentially the signal isn't leaking out, and all sorts of stuff. I mean, it can make it at least 3,000 times better, and it looks like more than 3,000 times better because of the timing issue. So insane amounts of improvement. That's why you can learn things. In MS, people unlearn things. There's a case of a violinist or a cellist, something like that. She was world class in her thing, I think a cellist. And then in her late 20s, she forgot how to play, right? Which is insane. So you have this very high level skill ability, and then you just kind of forget, like, oh, how do I do that thing? That's because MS was attacking her system, they found out later, and MS breaks down the myelin around your neurons. So it basically turns your brain more and more into a baby's brain, where you don't have all these connections. You still have the connections technically, but because they're not insulated, they're super inefficient, so you can't really access them. So it's kind of like you unlearn all of the things you've learned. Now, I assume I don't have MS, but the same thing would happen if you're put in a state where you're not using those neurons. That myelin will slowly start to come off. Now, you won't notice if it's a short period of time normally. People always talk about skills that you can tell. If someone practices every day and then they don't practice for a couple of days, you can definitely tell that there's a difference. But over a longer period of time, that's really compounded. So my entire brain has been functioning at a lower level for almost 2 years. That means a lot of that myelin has broken down, which could obviously be viewed as a bad thing. But it's also an interesting opportunity because it means now I can rewire my brain. I I've an opportunity to kind of decide which types of connections I'm going to pick up, focus on, and rewire together. It means I don't have the skills necessarily that I've had in the past, but there's potential for unique skills in the future that I might have been inhibited from having because of my previous connections. So that's a little bit of a spin, a little bit of trying to put a positive twist on something, but it's true. So it might be somewhat of an opportunity. Now that's only true if I can stay in relatively good health. If I can't stay in relatively good health, then the myelin just keeps breaking down. I'll keep getting dumber and dumber, and I'll keep getting weaker and weaker, and eventually my organs will give out in a relatively near future time frame. So we'll see how that goes. I'm hoping that, I mean, I'm doing a lot better now as long as I keep getting 2 adjustments a week. I'm hoping to tone that down. And I'm thinking that my thought is on the plane coming home from Africa, I was passed out for very extended periods of time with my head hanging down in various fashions. And that is putting kyphosis into your cervical spine. It's bending it the wrong way. And I'm thinking that if I can restore just a little bit of lordosis that maybe I lost there, maybe that lordosis, the way the vertebrae are lined up, it was holding C1 and my C2, C3 block, because those are both moving quite a bit, in place in some way. So I'm thinking if I can just restore a little bit of that, maybe that I lost just on that plane trip home from Africa, then it would lock it in a little bit better place. It wouldn't move so much, and it would stay out of my brainstem. That's kind of the idea there. It goes against my chiropractor's philosophy a little bit because I would definitely be forcing it. It's a very forceful thing to do. It'd probably be extremely painful and uncomfortable. Actually, I played with it a little bit before, and it will be painful and uncomfortable. And there's the possibility that I would actually end up causing more damage, but might be worth the risk. So we'll save that experiment, but probably end of October, maybe somewhere in November, I'll probably implement that experiment. It's kind of what I'm thinking. Also, some oddities. So I've been thinking about doing some various things. One are websites for authors. I think it's a good way to break into the web design field. It's a specific little niche that really needs to be filled, I feel like. So I'll probably make a simple course going into that. Also, I think phonics, video courses, whole language learning courses for English based in China is kind of an open market. They do a lot of teaching there. The teaching sucks. They do mostly a whole language approach. A lot of them say phonics, and then the phonics programs are just horrible. I mean, atrocious. I teach for 2 of these companies. They're not doing very well at teaching people in China English. And video courses aren't that popular. Teaching is really popular, but video courses aren't that popular, which seem like the way to go. So that I think might be really open. Now, China's a pain in the butt because they're kind of like Australia, but for tech companies. There's so many laws surrounding the tech field, and the government has the internet so locked down that none of these other big tech companies can exist there. So you have to make a new everything just for China alone. You can't use any of your stuff. I can't use my Google account. I can't use my Facebook account. I can't use my whatever. Or I don't think I can use my PayPal account. I can't use any of that stuff. I can't use any of the blog stuff I'm used to. I have to go all through Chinese sites. So it makes it a pain, which means that a lot of people aren't trying to do it. So that is kind of a barrier to entry that I think I kind of overcome, but these websites aren't designed to be read by people in English either. Like the Google Chrome translator works kind of okay, but not super great. So there's definitely walls to climb there. But I've got a really solid program put together, and I know what I would need to make. It's a combination of the phonics program for manipulating phonemes, which is a completely different concept, right? English and Chinese, spoken and written, are completely different concepts of language. So not related at all. It seems like a very alien language to the other party because it is. It's not the same at all. So phonics, and by far the best way to learn English. There's no study to contradict it ever at all. The more systematized phonics you use, the rate of dyslexia drops like a rock. The more you move towards whole language learning, dyslexia goes through the roof. So that's very interesting. There's some interesting stuff about dyslexia there, but I'm not going to go into all that. And then you have to combine that with growing vocabulary, which the way we learn vocabulary is we hold something up, we say planner, we say phone, and those are ostensive definitions. You can really structure that to learn in those ways online because you have pictures, and you can do a lot with pictures. And then if you combine that with the comprehension method, which is basically absorbing something by osmosis, which you can watch television and movies, helps with that a lot. But reading is a huge part of it. So I can literally pull a book up on my screen and read through it word by word, and I'm reading to someone. I can read I can read the Harry Potter series or the Narnia series or nonfiction books, whatever, and they can watch them whenever they want, and that can be part of the comprehension approach. And there's several other ideas to go with that, but this combination works really good for teaching an entire language to kids. So I've been thinking about doing that. And then obviously writing. I've been debating some writing stuff. A lot of like, what is the purpose of fiction? Why am I writing? I've had some frustrations with my mental clarity on a consistent basis. So that's been really annoying. And when I don't have mental clarity, I'm really self-conscious about writing because I don't know if I'm performing at the highest cognitive level. So I don't like writing when I'm not thinking clearly. It feels really weird, and so I back off it in those moments, which means I back off writing a lot. So I might have to just become okay with writing even when I'm not performing very well cognitively, which seems odd. It's still something I'm trying to get comfortable with. But fiction is like a model of the world or a reference signal from perceptual control theory on how the mind works. It has to have some sort of goal, and the mind has to simplify the world. The world's too complex. You can't take it all in, obviously, right? You can't think about what every quark and every electron and every atom is doing everywhere all the time. It's ridiculous. The mind has to simplify things. Just through the senses, it has to simplify things. And fiction helps clarify that and simplify things as well as building these reference signals, heroes and goals and things like that, and giving us a new perspective. And some of it's escapist too. And I'm trying to figure out exactly how that fits in, but it's kind of interesting. And then also, I've been thinking about some religious aspects. Now, religion, highly debated from the health field, but I've been thinking about changing things. I gotta change something because what I'm doing is not really working very well. So adapt, right? Animals adapt or they die. But religion isn't usually connected strongly with health if you factor in all of the other aspects, such as the social interaction. And I get social interaction in a similar fashion through an organization like Toastmasters. So that's fairly evened out. But in these words are kind of picked up from objectivism, which is ironic. The benevolent universe, which can be understood and manipulated, and the heroic man that can understand and manipulate the universe, are two concepts that have really kind of lost over the last 2 years, being constantly in pain, not having my mental clarity, not seeing my way out, the pain, really kind of drives positive aspects or positive views out of you. And I, to a large extent, and fairly naturally melancholy anyways, and have a bit of a negative view of things at times. So it didn't take too long, I guess, less than 2 years to really drive that positive aspect kind of out of my mentality. So I think I may need a major change there. And this goes back to the myelin, which is broken down in my brain. So things are really freed up, and I could really rewire my brain to be religious in some aspect, and that may be a way to get to that place where I see a benevolent universe and the possibility of heroic man. And kind of just an idea I've been playing with. I'm not sure if I'll go towards it or not. Either way, it'll be interesting. So I've got some ideas and some things I'm moving towards, and a few things I'm excited about, which I've I've had trouble fairly recently getting excited about things because I wanted to get excited about moving to France and moving to China to teach and going to California to a computer school, and all of these plans have kind of fallen apart because of my health limitations. So I've had to reorient, but these are things, this list is geared towards things I can do now that can possibly improve my health, that could improve several aspects of my life, and things that I can do. I can't go tutor in France. It's just not a real possibility. I can't go teach in China right now. I really can't go to the computer school in California right now, even though offers are still on the table. But these are things that I can do, and I'm just as excited about doing these as those things. So it's a very good, real possibility, option moving forward in the future. I like it, and I'm happy with the fact that I have something that I'm working on that I like. And I'm hoping some of these pan out. It'll be a disappointment. I'm sure some of them won't, but we'll see how that goes at the time. And I think some of them may pan out better than I'm expecting. So we'll see.